Welcome back to the latest edition of Get Stuck In, once again with Martin Dixon and Dan Barber. First of all, men, what was the most impressive performance last weekend?
Well, I think we're both going to go the same with Edwardstone in the Tingle Creek. I mean, obviously it was the biggest race, I'd say, of the weekend, certainly in the UK anyway. And to put Greaneteen in his place as he did at a track where Greaneteen excels, and I think he probably performed somewhere near his best form, to be honest with you, and Edwardstone completely left him behind. He was well ridden, the pace was pretty strong, and Greaneteen was a bit closer to that pace, so maybe that helped a little bit, but he was still with such an authoritative winner, wasn't he, that it puts him firmly in the picture, I think, as a champion chaser. Shishkin disappointed, but he just doesn't look completely comfortable nowadays at 2 miles, does he, in these top races? And I remember thinking right from when he won a Supreme Novice that he wasn't just a 2 miler anyway. Now I understand why he kept winning and winning and winning, so you don't sort of change it unless if it's not broken, but I think the time has come where, as an older horse now, he looks ready for a go at a longer trip. To be honest, I'd love to see him over 3 miles. I think he'd stay.
I couldn't agree more. That's just similar with Altio, wasn't it, really? His defeat was blamed on the trip that day when they tried it, but that horse was always a thorough stay at 2 miles, and it's as you're saying, it's just because he was so dominant at 2, as Shishkin was for a period, that they don't see any reason to go up. But it's sort of the natural order of things, isn't it? You win over 2, you go up in distance when you jump spread. So I agree, that's like almost last chance to learn to some extent, but they want to be looking at something different, because on that evidence, clearly you can't win a champion chase anymore.
Do you know what? I wouldn't even mind seeing him in a hurdle race over a longer distance. Sure. You know, like a 3 mile staying race or something, like a Cleve hurdle. And try him in that, because I could see he's obviously got serious ability, hasn't he? And we've seen that time.
Get him enjoying it or something.
Yeah, it could be just one of them horses that switching it up could work with. But I've no doubt there's still some big races to be won with him. But I think it's time to try and do something different and experiment with something new.
Funny that, because we were saying off air earlier about the idea of maybe some horse like Dusart could get into the picture. What about Shishkin as an absolute wild one? Because I know his best ever run was at Ascot when he beat an Ergamine, but he doesn't shape like a horse that wants to go right-handed. He jumps left, doesn't he? Campaign over hurdles. If you were Nicky Henderson's race planner, you'd have plenty of fun, but that'd be something you could experiment with.
I'd love to see it. I mean, that division is wide open. Yeah. We're talking about Dusart, got a mention because he runs Friday, doesn't he? We talked about him last week, but he runs in a handicap hurdle on Friday, so at Cheltenham over that course and distance, 3 miles. So be worth keeping an eye on how he runs and shapes. He's running off a BHA marker 150, so it could be that he's in that picture sort of on the back of it if he goes and gets the job done and wins on Friday. They might also have an eye on a Grand Nationals campaign maybe with Dusart, so again he's just a horse to keep an eye on over the next few days.
You might have a fun one to ask your bookmakers, see what price he is ahead before Friday.
He'd be bigger than 16s or something, wouldn't he? Definitely.
I think so.
I think actually, as an overview, I remember the doom and gloom after Ascot when Edwardstone was one of the horses that didn't run. Like, what a cheering few couple of weeks it's been since for racing. You know, just like Alan King having a day at the top table when we're just so used to Mullins and Nichols and Elliott dominating. And I just think that horse, Edwardstone, I mean, it's something a bit old school about him. Solid handicap hurdler, but has just made a much better chaser. He's really assured, so professional. And his 2 visits to Sandown have been pretty blistering. I think he's a bona fide sort of top class 2 mile chaser, even if start of last season you maybe wouldn't have thought he could develop into that. But as Martin said, we mentioned it with Epperton, judging Constitution Hill through Epperton, surely you'd have way more confidence anyway that Greaneteen would have been right on it. He just won at Exeter off a big weight, and Nichols was totally punchy, wasn't he, in the run up, saying how well he had him. And really Edwardstone just kicked him out of the way. He just did not put a foot wrong.
We talked about one race. We haven't mentioned Jonbon, Noble Yeats, Ashdown Lad, Facile de Vega. Wow.
Yeah, it was a fantastic weekend, wasn't it? We were at Aintree, Noble Yeats, very good. I have some reservations about him as a Cheltenham horse, I suppose, simply because I haven't seen him do it there yet. I understand that he was given a different campaign, I suppose, last year, and probably they did have a bit of an eye on the National when he ran at Cheltenham in the handicap, but he still got beaten there. And as it stands at the moment, those 2 standout performances in the National and the Many Clouds have both come at Aintree. Obviously a very different test, but he's kind of in that realm now, isn't he, of proper Grade 1 chase prospect on the back of what he's done, and it shows us on Saturday that he's still improving. That was good from him. Jonbon was magnificent, I thought. I mean, he's on springs, isn't he, over his fences. As a novice, you just wouldn't put him as a novice, would you, when you watch him as a chaser? And
he's maturing the right way, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think they've learned how to ride him as well. He just let him get on with it, use his enthusiasm. He's got a lot more ability than most horses he's running against, and you're not restraining him from his jumping or anything. He's just a very enthusiastic horse. You see that in the paddock beforehand of his races as well. He sort of gets a little bit hot and he bounces around the place, but they're using that energy and enthusiasm now with how they're riding him in his races, and he couldn't have taken to chasing any better than he has, really. And time was very similar to the Tingle Creek. That's often the case on that day, but it was a good performance.
A lot of crowing and sniping, wasn't there, when he was bought, just because it was a public sale? Oh, look how much they've spent on this, the world's gone mad, that sort of thing. You mean he's worth absolutely every penny of it now. Full brother to Duvan, isn't he? Looks exactly like him, pretty much, and he's just looks a complete natural. That novice chase division really sort of stepped up again this weekend, because in the absence of El Fabiolo, we've yet to have cited, Jonbon sort of established himself as the clear pick in the 2 mile division, and Mighty Potter on Sunday I thought was pretty exceptional as well in winning the Drimmoor, and he sort of put himself now to the forefront of that middle distance, the Turners race, which, I mean, as novice chases go, that Drimmoor was probably better than 1 or 2 of the novices we'll see at Cheltenham, the depth to it and the different blender profiles. So 2 horses there that now are like the standard setters in the division, and the onus is on the ones that haven't played the hand yet to see if they can get to their level.
Facile de Vega.
Yeah.
Bred to be an aeroplane.
Yeah. Look, we know how good he was in bumpers last season. The performance itself and the time and everything you wouldn't get carried away with, but in terms of just a solid start to his hurdling career, he jumped well, he did everything you'd asked of him. Obviously, there'll be bigger tests ahead for him, but it couldn't have gone much better first day at school, I suppose. And I wouldn't necessarily say that it should harden his position at the head of the Supreme market as such, because he's kind of, his ability is more based on what he did in bumpers than what he did at the weekend starting out his hurdling career. But at least it shows to us that he's fit well and he's taken to the job.
Some people have started to take a bit of a knock to that champion bumper, saying, oh, well, is it working out great? I mean, the notion that isn't a top-class horse in the making is pretty laughable, isn't it? I mean, he's clearly extremely good.
I haven't seen that or heard it, but I'm assuming that it's based purely on American Mike.
Yeah, precisely. It's authorised speed hasn't done anything to harm it, and he was fifth.
I think last year's bumper horses were very good, personally. I thought that right the way through, and ultimately it doesn't matter whether you look at the champion bumper or whatever, right the way through he was deadly, wasn't he? And you've got we don't often talk about pedigrees over jumps in the same way that we do on the flat. But
by walking the park out of Vega.
Exactly.
But how often do them real top pedigrees work out? Very rarely.
Yeah, not
the top
like
class
that.
ones.
So we've got 2 now, haven't we? We've got Duvan's full brother in Jonbon, and we got him sort of flying the flag.
Well, I think a part of that, in fairness, without going off piece too much, but I think it is because of the increased Mears races that there are now. You get more of them kept in training. They get an opportunity to establish themselves more at the top tiers, don't they, in terms of what they do on the racetrack. And so you're kind of getting better pedigrees coming through a little bit.
The last 2 I remember being top class horse were Granville again and Morley Street, full brothers. Champion herders. Talking about full brothers who are doing well, the Skeltons, Harry and Dan, not doing too bad. Schiller Chase, and then they took Protektorat, took the Betfair Chase, the Milos took the Coral Gold Cup, and Ashdown Lad won the Beecher Chase this Saturday. And I caught up with Harry. He's having to sit out this weekend with suspension, but Midnight River for his brother looks to have a live chance at Cheltenham on Saturday. Harry, what a run!
Yeah, fantastic. They've been flying along, so we've had a great few weeks, and we've been enjoying it, so it's good.
And it really has no credit to, you talk about your whole team and everything, but Dan he hasn't been shy in coming forward. We had him on the show a couple of weeks ago just before Protektorat, and you're thinking at that stage he could have dodged the Gold Cup winner, and he could have went to Many Clouds, the race he won last year, but he's come out all guns blazing, and he said no excuses, we're ready, we're fit, let's go. And from before the Protektorat, the Schiller Chase, to Protektorat, to the Coral Gold Cup of the Milos, to Ashdown Lad this Saturday, it's crazy what he's doing, isn't it?
Yeah, unbelievable, really. But he's a great planner now. Like he's had these races in mind from a long time out. The majority of them, he's got to run into them beforehand. It's obviously Ashdown Lad and Milos both had a run, which is very important, I think, for those big handicaps. It takes a lot of planning, but he's done an unbelievable job with them.
Ashdown Lad had a lovely prep over hurdles. Hurdle race has worked out well before going Saturday. I guess Protektorat's your Gold Cup horse, and the horse that if you had to have a picture on the wall over the last sort of 4 weeks, only one, you'd maybe pick him. But Ashdown Lad, I'd say you probably haven't enjoyed a race as much as that. He was a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, he really was. He was a pleasure to ride as well. Like, he jumped like a buck the whole way around. Was in a good rhythm. He really took to it well, and yeah, I mean, to win over those fences, every sort of jockey really wants to do that. And I've been placed in those races a few times, but to win it was fantastic.
I know you got lots of help from Tom Messenger, one of your assistants. He'd been riding the Grand National before. I think he was instrumental, sort of telling you where to go and where not to go.
Yeah, exactly. Like, to be honest, I sat down for a few times with him and watched him ride around the National, and he's been a great help. You know, I think he rode Surface to Air
That was it.
back in 2000 and maybe 19 or something. I think that the TVs had just come into colour then, so he's a bit long in the tooth now, but now he's always a good help to me.
Yeah, good stuff. Your band, unfortunately, this weekend, hopefully racing will go ahead. You'll be sat at home cheering on the likes of Midnight River Saturday.
Yeah, he's in real good form. Ran well there at the Paddy Power meeting. Ran very well. I think this track will suit him a bit more open, a bit more galloping. Should bring stamina to the fore, and that's definitely what he's got. We'll just have to keep an eye on the ground. He's not certain to run yet. I think it could be a testing week again for the Clerks, of courses, with the frost coming as well. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, super. Hopefully it goes their way this weekend. You can't ride the winner. You're sat on the couch, but I'm sure you'll be watching on, cheering on Team Skelton. Well done the last few weeks, Harry. Best of luck this weekend and the rest of the season.
Cheers. Thanks very much for having me.
How good was he, Ashdown Lad, to watch the whole way round?
Yeah, brilliant. 2 horses who came to the fore. One who'd been, how many weeks are we going to sit here and say it? Skelton just prepping a horse absolutely perfectly. We'll discuss it in line with the weekend stuff, no doubt. But Ashdown Lad, tune up over hurdles, first time back. A race, let's just mention that Pertemps qualifier at Aintree is becoming some sort of early marker race. It's thrown up the 2nd and 3rd for the Coral Gold Cup. It threw up him winning that race, and yeah, he took very well to the fences. Dan was saying, wasn't he, that the trip probably was beyond him in the Scottish National as it looked, and he'd probably therefore want really good ground to do anything in a Grand National. But all those sort of up to 3.25 mile staying chases, he's still low mileage. He's obviously progressive.
He was good.
He was good, yeah, and the BHF put him up to 145 this morning. Usually that'd get you in a national. 2 years ago that was bottom weight in 2021. I made a point to you at the weekend, because of the way that the Beecher is, you know, over the national fences, it's kind of a natural path to the Grand National. I'd quite like to see that race as you win the Beecher, you're in the Grand National type of race, because it could be touch and go. Like I said, 145 was the absolute bottom weight in it in 2021, and the way that the weights have gone in the National in recent years with higher rated horses running in it, you are touch and go. And I think it'll be a lesser race if an Ashdown Lad doesn't run in the Grand National, because he misses out of not being rated high.
What if a 125 horse wins it and then at Aintree it's like 2 stone out the weights?
Oh, it doesn't matter. Good luck.
Personally, I would say good luck to him.
Yeah.
You know,
you only go back 20 years where 20 of the runners ride
They're
that
out the weights, yeah.
I mean, others will disagree, but I think it's an incentive, isn't it? And
to get your horses out in December, show us what you've got. If you're like a 133, 135 horse, and you think we're not going to get in a national, the only reason we'll get in, this horse will take the fences. Well, show us, and if you win, you're in. I
think it's an incentive for the Beecher to become a better race itself as well, personally. But look, I accept that can happen.
You could possibly extend it as well, really, couldn't you? So it's not just all on a Beecher. Why not, if you're going to go with that idea, have a couple more races in the programme? That
could do, yeah. I mean, ultimately, if you just did it for the Beecher, it's one horse in a 40-runner race, and there's a reason for it at the same track over the same fences. I quite like it personally.
You could do Sefton as well, couldn't you? Grand Sefton, have both. I know it's a shorter distance, but just as an option. No, I could totally see working. I love that amusing idea that something wins it off 120 and it like Gary Bardwell comes out of retirement to do
it. Yeah, but good, you know, like Niall says, good luck to him. It's an extra reason, isn't it? And look, we always have 100, 150 to 1 shots in a national, whatever runs, don't we? So if that was the case because of the weight and being out of the handicap, then so.
If you're running for near £1 million, why not? Yeah. No, I'd one off. I'd do it. No, Melrose, you win the Melrose, and next year you qualify for an Ebor, etc.
And
Melbourne
like
Cup.
I said, that if even if it is that 125 theory, even if that happens, those connections will be absolutely buzzing that they've pulled it off.
And they could win in the interim anyway. So even if they win twice more, they'd possibly just be in the weights normal anyway.
Anyway, gives a bit more incentive to a beach chase, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does. On the week that the BHA announced last week that there's no more reserves for a Grand National, I can see two sides to why they've done that, but that's the news. There's no number 41, 42 and 43 when the horses are declared on the Thursday morning. Anyway, that is next April. We're going to talk about this weekend very shortly. And this weekend, we're hopefully back at Cheltenham Friday and Saturday. I say hopefully. Jack Frost could have a part to play. It looks like it'd be -4, -5 in Gloucestershire, sort of mid till end of the week. With that in mind, I caught up earlier with Clerk of the course, John Pullin.
We're in a challenging position at the moment, obviously, with the weather forecast that we've got. We're finishing off the watering both yesterday and today. And then the frost covers go down for the cold period at the end of the week.
Yeah, it's mad. In December you're watering, and then as soon as you finish water, frost covers down. What's sort of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night telling you? How cold?
Yeah, so we get potentially a little bit of a frost tonight, but nothing too serious. And daytime temperatures should mean that we lose that tomorrow during the day. But then it really does start to get cold from Wednesday evening onwards. We could see -3, -4 Wednesday and Thursday, and into Friday evening as well. The difficulty will be the daytime temperatures both on Friday and Saturday. Friday, it looks like we could get to sort of +2, maybe +3. But Saturday looks the really cold daytime temperatures, with them just, hopefully getting above freezing, +1, maybe +2.
In your experience, the covers, what sort of temperatures are they useful to? And when it gets to -6, -7, nothing can really stop that.
Yeah, it's really difficult to pinpoint a temperature that they're effective to, because there are so many other variables that can impact their effectiveness. The positive for us at the moment is that this is the first cold spell, so soil temperatures are still relatively healthy. We've moved on to the new course, so we've got good grass cover. Another positive, the more grass cover you've got, the better. So they're the positive elements going into this weekend's cold spell. At the moment, it looks as if there might be the odd wintry shower, but nothing too significant. But that isn't helpful if you get snowfall on top of covers. And obviously wind chill can make things a lot trickier. But at the moment, it doesn't look as if we've got that as a factor. So, if we don't dip too low and we can get the covers down in time, then we're hopeful that we can race both days.
Yeah. Good. When you put the covers down tomorrow, what do you envisage the ground being?
We're good ground. We watered last week. As I say, we've moved on to the new course. So we watered last week and put plenty on in anticipation of this cold spell, knowing that we'd have to back off the watering certainly at some point this week. So we're good ground going into covering tomorrow. Okay,
so fingers crossed it will go ahead this weekend. I was slightly disappointed then, Rhys.
Yeah, there's a small number of entries, aren't there? Probably because of the likely ground conditions. It's going to be a little bit softer at other places, I would imagine. But hopefully the meeting goes ahead. Still some good stuff going on Friday. Mentioned Dusart's out again. It'd be interesting to see how he gets on. Delta Work, we're likely to see his return to action return to British shores, at least in the cross-country chase. He won the cross-country at the festival last year. There's a valuable 3.25 mile handicap chase on Friday as well. Eva's Oscar. Pretty solid favourite for that at the midweek stage at least, but you'd expect him to run Saturday International Hurdle. December Gold Cup, I think there's 19 in the December Gold Cup, so entries are down a little bit on what you'd usually expect.
I know you've been moaning Niall, about the entries not being what you were expecting, but they've got a race Friday and they're racing Saturday as well. The covers have got to come off before Friday. You wouldn't be 100% amazed if Friday goes ahead, and because it's been opened up and they've not got the covers on until later on, Saturday went missing. But obviously we hope both days go ahead. Not done a lot on Friday, but Saturday for me features a really good international hurdling prospect, because I really like the profiles of the three horses that are at the head of the betting. The proven quality of Epperton, back up after chasing Constitution Hill home. Nappers Hill, who's been an absolute revelation, won all his starts this season. graded Breakthrough last time, and I Like to Move It, who won that Greatwood. I think you two might have been down there, and he was brilliant that day under an aggressive ride. Brilliant record for the trainer in the race, Nigel Twiston-Davies, and just an honest trier who finds plenty, and it's the two young pretenders against the established top-class mare.
He was good in the Greatwood. The hurdles were taken out.
Yeah, they were.
Western Lake was third. He was run over at the weekend.
Yeah, I'd have a few concerns about him before I see him do it in a hurdle race where he's got to jump all of them, because it was
priced up 5-4, wasn't he? I looked earlier.
It was a big performance in the Greatwood, but as you said, they didn't jump, and one thing that has held him back a little bit. He's still obviously achieved a lot already as a hurdler, but he was a very good bumper horse. And his jumping isn't that slick, is it? Even last time out
Massive,
in the
isn't he? Just,
but even in the Greatwood, he made a couple of mistakes early on in the race, and obviously there was a lot of galloping on the flat to do, and that showed, and I think it paid off with a bigger performance. But I'm not sure against a mare of Epatant's class and a proven ability that he'll be able to give a little bit of weight away to her. It's a different test altogether. She's about a 6-4 shot, maybe similar prices sort of. I Like to Move It, and Nappers Hill's a bit bigger. I'd be surprised if Epatant want an odds-on shot.
I was going to say, I don't be too punchy because it's not supposed to be that type of show necessarily, but you wouldn't be surprised if the true odds should be reversed there, 4-6, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's very fair, to be honest. I mean, Nappers Hill, he's been good, but he was in receipt of weight from Sir Royal last time out.
Nearly 11 in
conditions of that race, and all of a sudden he's then got to give a little bit of weight to Epatant. I think she will probably.
The only thing niggling me having a good crack is we saw it. Henderson, obviously, he might be a bit more circumspect than most, but you just hope the ground isn't too quick. But the fact he's entered her just 2 weeks after fighting fifth, to me, suggests his intent to run, keeping her out of the way of Constitution Hill, who she can't beat. And I think tactically it's interesting because we know how I Like to Move It will be ridden. Nappers Hill is a strong stay at the trip. He'll be ridden positively on quickish ground, which we might get, certainly good ground. I can just see her stalking and just skinning them. She's getting weight off the pair of them as a mare, and she still showed at Aintree last season, and to an extent she showed at Newcastle. She's probably as good as she's ever been, and if that's the case, the two graduates from handicaps recently have surely got the work cut out to sort of contain her speed. I mean, she's just a quick horse, isn't she?
So Epatant wins the International?
I think she will win within this International, if it goes ahead. The race will tee up perfectly for her. She might have a little penalty for a Grade 1 win, I'm not sure the weights.
She gets 5 and 7.
Is she? Yeah. But look, it's a good opportunity for her, the right race, and I think she'll take a hell of a lot of beating.
Okay, December Gold Cup?
Yeah, I mean,
what's going to run, I suppose, at the minute? Yeah. We're recording this on Tuesday late morning, so it's a bit with what's going to run.
Yeah, I think
probably are going to have to wait till Saturday afternoon to see what runs.
I think some weeks we'll sit here on a Tuesday and have a stronger opinion about what will run because you'll kind of be knowing what the conditions are. But there's no doubt there'll be a little bit of to-in and fro-in, and it'll be 50-50s for a lot of connections as to whether they do or they don't. A horse I'm interested in to some extent is Cheltenham for Jenny Candlish, who saw him make a reappearance over hurdles a few weeks back at Haydock, and it was a good comeback run. It just suggested a bit of a pipe opener, really. It was a first run over hurdles for a long time, first start of the season, and he was second at Cheltenham last year over 2 miles. I think he's ready to go back up in distance, and he's a horse that I've always really liked. He's very honest, consistent, never been out of the first 4 in his career, and I still think that maybe up to 2.5 there could be a bigger performance in Cheltenham.
Okay, Cheltenham.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting in the sense this isn't actually a bad time to play the race, is it? 19 entered, as Mark says. You're not going to have 4 places on the day. You'll get 4 places anti-post now because you've got 19 entered. A horse who I was interested in, I know he's got form in the mud. Midnight Row, I think, is a very worthy favourite. He almost had a bit of a tee-up, I thought, in the November race because he went right around the houses. Didn't get in the race until late on, but shaped well. So he'd be my starting point. But Ferro Bamboo, though, he's got lots of form in the mud. You'd hope Venetia might think, well, at this trip, first time over 2.5, I'm happier to try him on good ground than I would be on soft, just because of the stamina concerns. But I know he's not blessed with loads of stamina in his pedigree, and he's never raced over it, but I think he's always shaped like a strong stayer at 2 miles, winning on bad ground at Sandown, stiff finish, good runs in competitive handicaps like Red Rums, and he ran well in that hot Ascot handicap on his return behind Boot Hill, who didn't exactly let the form down. So I thought he was interesting up in trip for the first time. Venetia, I mean, last week was just an exhibition, wasn't it? There was a period of about 2.5 hours where Venetia horses were winning off long layoffs by half the track, and I'm hoping Frero Bamboo off 140 can continue the positive work for the stable.
Okay, and then it is going to be messy. The likes of the JCB Triumph, all them horses are in the good race at Doncaster as well. So I think there'll be horses declared first preference, second preference, inspections. It is December. I suppose we should expect it, but I think it is coming this weekend. Also coming very shortly, some tracker horses that the lads have found. Okay, as promised, a couple of tracker horses for the lads. Start with you, Dan.
Yeah, I'm going to, honestly, this could be a race as a whole, but there was a novice hurdle at Huntingdon on Sunday, which I thought was red hot. I did the report for Timeform. I put the first 5 horses in focus, who might be of interest next time. There was a blend of good flat animals. Father of Jazz was in there, first start for Skelton. You had School Days Over, who made a really promising start in bumpers, but the horse we're looking at is in the Dave Cross Syndicate Silks. Hansard, who won a bumper at the 4th attempt in Ireland for Charles O'Brien, and
No Feely Silks.
No Feely. Yeah, sorry about that. I think of them as the same, despite their riding capabilities being vastly different. He just looked a different proposition, even compared to a horse who'd won a bumper. He absolutely tanked through the race. He made a bad mistake in the back straight, and you thought, well, he might be up against it here. He was still pulling as he got to the front, and they all whisper it. But I honestly think with the stable that have won that race with Heathcote, Violet Dancer, Wingman, I'm talking about the Betfair Hurdle.
Newbury.
I know they've got authorised speeding, people might think was a candidate for that. I can honestly see that horse, as long as he gets the next 2 runs in, being a very likely type for that. He just looks absolutely rapid, and that is undoubtedly very strong novice hurdle form. Big field, proper horses, first 5 all interesting.
That Syndicate doing really well as well, aren't they?
They're buying well, aren't they?
Yeah. They're buying really well. And
Noel Feely and David Cross, obviously, on a serious note, assist them, and they are doing well. Good trainers.
Yeah,
nice horse.
And we saw a nice horse at Haydock the other week. They're just doing really well with what they're buying and getting the results.
Okay, Martin?
I've put in one of our own horses for the Horse Watchers, Conquered All of Europe, who was second.
These are never going to stop.
I could start the He's One of Our Own.
I'll
spare you that torture. But yeah, this is Conquered All of Europe, orange sleeves, staying on eventually into second place at Wetherby at the weekend. It was his first start for us, his first start for Donald McCain, a horse that we bought in conjunction with Derek O'Connor at the sales in September, and we thought that he would be a good fit for staying handicap chases in the north of England, and I think this proved the point really. He'd just made one mistake down the back straight, lost 5 or 6 lengths as a result of that and came off the bridle, but all he did up the straight was keep galloping. He's got a nice handicap mark to work with. He was giving a lot of weight to that winner, Valley Lad, who got first run on him to some extent, and we'll probably step him up in trip, possibly go for the Lincolnshire National on Boxing Day at Market Rasen, but discuss all of that with Donald and try and come up with a plan. But I think he's a horse that we can place to good advantage through the winter.
It's a nice when you get this time of year, if weather's on your side in the Lincolnshire National. You mentioned Market Rasen Boxing Day, but if there is frost, whatever, they have a Roland Merrick the same day. You have them Haydock races that come up, and the last couple of seasons that I've been in it, a lower rate of horse in the 115s, the 120s will get in on all them.
Yeah, and he ran on Saturday of 114. I don't. He'll be around that sort of rating, and you can get in some nice prizes because of it, you know. So but equally you have the possibility to find some softer options with them as well at a slightly lower level at local tracks. So we'll see, but I think we'll be able to place him to good advantage, and hopeful after that encouraging start for us that he can have a good season.
He must be a proper one if Mark's happy to give away the price for next time with one of his own horses.
The price will have gone anyway.
Yeah, you can't back yours anymore. Everybody knows. But yeah, good start. I think you've made another good purchase, obviously.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, what are we looking forward to? The Frost doing one, hopefully.
It's good weekend. Doncaster's got some good racing as well. You mentioned that they've got a juvenile hurdle.
It's just a bit annoying because it's the same 10 in this.
It is. I mean, that juvenile hurdle division, if anyone's got one that they from left field that they fancy a flyer on in some of the big, like a Triumph hurdle betting and things like that, there's nothing that's really lit it up yet. We're still waiting, aren't we? And I think that's partly because of the weather that we've had in the autumn. We haven't seen that many horses. But I think through December and January we'll get a stronger handle. Hopefully Doncaster and Cheltenham do go ahead and we get to see a good performance from something. I see script writers in, isn't he? He's already won a Grade 2 at Cheltenham.
He's got a few Milton Harris. I think he's got 3 in both races.
He buys specifically for the juvenile hurdle division, doesn't he? And seemingly buys really well for it as well. But no, I think it should be a good weekend racing as long as that we get all of those horses and meetings going ahead. That we want to see. The International will be a bit of a highlight if all 3 of those big guns do turn up. As we say, me and Dan both keen on Epperton at odds against, I think.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, looking forward to say Jack Frost. Please leave us alone for this week. Time for our best bets for the weekend. Start with you, Mart.
Yeah, I'll go Evers Oscar. It's on Friday actually at Cheltenham, but almost guaranteed to run, which is a good start point. Horse that's finished second in 2 big Cheltenham handicap chases last year to Corach Rambler, and then last time out to Does He Know at the track. Wasn't really seen to best advantage that day. Got shuffled back, lost his position at a key point, but he's a good sound jumper. He obviously appreciates the track with his record there, and I think he's still improving. So he could be pretty hard to beat, I think, in that handicap chase on Friday. It's the 3 1/4 mile race.
Dan?
Yeah, well, Percussion ran well at a bigger price last week for us, but I'm going shorter this week. And I'll actually advise, even if you have to take a little shorter when decks come through, because I want the big 3 to run. I like to move it. I want Nappers Hill, I want Epperton, and if I can back Epperton at odds against, I will gleefully do so.
Okay, Epperton to win the International Hurdle. That is the best bets for the weekend. We hope you enjoy it, and do join us back here next Tuesday again.